Every Sunday for 3 years, my wife left the house at 6 o'clock to spend the evening with her college friends having girls' night out. I stayed home with our 2 kids, put them to bed, trusted her completely because everyone deserves time with their friends. Then last Tuesday, my neighbor knocked on my door, looking sick and holding his phone like it was burning his hand. He said he saw something at a bar downtown and recorded it because I wouldn't believe him without proof. He showed me a 47-second video and my entire life exploded. But what I discovered next destroyed everything. Before that, tell us where you're watching from and what time it is there right now. And please subscribe to this channel so that my stories can reach more people. For 3 entire years, my wife had this standing Sunday tradition that she never missed once. Every single Sunday evening, at exactly 6 o'clock, she would leave our house dressed in casual, comfortable clothes to go spend time with her college friends for what she called girls' night out. She'd take extra time doing her hair up nice and putting on perfume that smelled expensive, even though she claimed she was just hanging out with female friends. She always seemed genuinely excited about seeing the girls and getting away from our house to decompress from what she called our hectic, stressful week of work and parenting. She'd kiss me goodbye at the door and tell me not to wait up because the girls always talked late into the night catching up on their lives. I would stay home every single Sunday night with our 2 young kids who were 5 and 7 years old. I'd handle the entire bedtime routine by myself, including dinner and baths and reading stories and tucking them in. I never once questioned where she was going or what she was doing because I genuinely believed that everyone deserves time away with their friends to relax and be themselves. I trusted her completely and absolutely, without a single doubt in my mind. She'd been going to these Sunday girls' nights since before we even had kids, and it seemed like such a normal, healthy thing for her to maintain friendships from college. She usually got home around midnight, or sometimes even later, depending on how much the girls had to catch up on, according to her stories. She'd come in smiling and relaxed, telling me bits and pieces about whose life was drama-filled or who was having problems at work or whose kids were being difficult. The stories always sounded so believable and detailed. She'd mention names of friends I vaguely remembered meeting at our wedding years ago: Sarah and Jennifer and Michelle and Amanda. She'd tell me they all said hi and asked about me and the kids. She'd show me funny memes they'd shared in their group chat during the evening. I never had a single reason to doubt any of it. Our marriage seemed solid and happy. We had our normal problems like any couple with young kids and demanding jobs, but nothing that made me suspicious or worried. She seemed content with our life together. We had date nights when we could get a babysitter. We talked about our future plans and saving for the kids' college funds. We were planning a family vacation for the summer. Everything felt normal and stable and exactly like what a good marriage should look like after 8 years together. Those Sunday nights became such a predictable routine in our household that I actually started looking forward to them in a way. It was my special one-on-one time with the kids without any distractions. We'd make popcorn and watch movies together. We'd build elaborate blanket forts in the living room. We'd have tickle fights and tell silly jokes. The kids loved having Daddy all to themselves for the evening. I loved being the fun parent who got to break some of Mom's rules about bedtime and treats. It felt like quality bonding time that I might not have gotten otherwise with my busy work schedule during the week. I trusted my wife so completely that I never even thought to check up on her stories. I never asked to meet her friends for dinner sometime. I never suggested joining them occasionally for their girls' nights. I never looked at our credit card statements to see where the charges were coming from. I never checked her location on our shared family phone plan that we had for safety purposes. I never went through her text messages or call history. I never did any of those things that people do when they suspect something is wrong, because nothing felt wrong to me. She was my wife. She was the mother of my children. She was my partner in life. Why would I not trust her to spend a few hours every Sunday with her friends? Last Tuesday evening around 7 o'clock, I was sitting on my couch watching television and trying to relax after putting the kids to bed when I heard a knock on my front door. I opened it to find my neighbor Dave standing on my porch looking visibly uncomfortable and nervous, like he really didn't want to be there. He was holding his phone in both hands like it weighed 1,000 pounds, and he didn't know what to do with it. His face was pale, and he kept shifting his weight from one foot to the other. I could tell immediately that something was very wrong, just from his body language and the way he couldn't make eye contact with me. "Hey man, I really don't know how to tell you this," he said in a quiet voice that was shaking slightly. "But I think you need to see something that I saw last Sunday night. I've been debating all week whether to show you or mind my own business. I talked to my wife about it and she said I had to tell you because she'd want to know if it was her. So here I am, but I feel terrible about this." He still hadn't shown me his phone or explained what he was talking about. My stomach started dropping before he even said another word because I could sense this was something really bad. "I was at Murphy's bar downtown last Sunday night for my buddy's birthday party," Dave continued while staring at his phone screen. "It's that sports bar on 5th Street near the stadium. We had a big group there watching the game and drinking and celebrating. Around 9:30 at night I got up to go to the bathroom and I walked past one of the back booths near the pool tables. And I saw something that made me stop in my tracks. I saw your wife there, but she wasn't with female friends like you've told me she does on Sundays. She was with a man, and they were not acting like friends." My heart started pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. My hands went cold and numb. I felt like the ground was tilting underneath my feet. "What do you mean?" I asked, even though I already knew I didn't want to hear the answer. Dave looked up at me with genuine sympathy and pain in his eyes. "I mean, they were all over each other, man. Kissing, touching, acting like a couple." I stood there for probably 10 seconds just staring because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Then I pulled out my phone and recorded it because I knew you would never believe me if I just told you without proof. He held out his phone toward me, but I couldn't make myself reach for it. I went back to my table and showed my buddies the video and asked them if that was your wife because I thought maybe I was seeing things wrong or it was someone who just looked like her. But they all confirmed it was definitely her. They recognized her from seeing her around the neighborhood. I've been sick to my stomach all week trying to decide if I should show you this or stay out of your marriage. But my wife convinced me that you deserve to know the truth about what your wife is doing on Sunday nights. I finally took his phone from his shaking hands. The screen showed a paused video with a thumbnail that I couldn't quite make out clearly. "I'm really sorry, man," Dave said quietly. "I wish I hadn't seen this. I wish I didn't have to be the one to show you. But you've been a good neighbor and a good guy, and you deserve better than being lied to. Just press play when you're ready. I'll wait here if you need me, or I can leave if you want to watch it alone. Whatever you need." I pressed play on the video with my hands trembling so badly I almost dropped his phone. And in 47 seconds, my entire world came crashing down around me. The video started shaky because Dave had clearly pulled out his phone quickly and was trying to be discreet while recording. But within 3 seconds, the image stabilized and became crystal clear, and there was absolutely no mistaking what I was looking at on that small phone screen. It was my wife sitting in a booth at Murphy's bar, but she wasn't sitting with a group of women laughing and having innocent girls' night fun. She was pressed up against a man in that booth, a man I had never seen before in my entire life, a man whose hands were on her body, a man she was kissing passionately like they'd been doing this for years. The video was only 47 seconds long, but it felt like it lasted an eternity as I watched it play out. My wife was wearing the exact same casual outfit she'd left our house in that previous Sunday. The same jeans and comfortable sweater she always wore when she claimed she was just going to hang out with the girls and didn't need to dress up fancy. Her hair was done up the way she always did it for these Sunday nights. I could even see the necklace I'd bought her for our anniversary around her neck as she leaned in to kiss this stranger again. They were laughing together between kisses like they were having the time of their lives. His arm was around her shoulders, pulling her close. Her hand was on his chest in a way that showed complete comfort and familiarity. This wasn't some drunk mistake where she didn't know what she was doing. This was two people who clearly knew each other very well, acting like a couple on a date. They looked happy and relaxed and intimate in a way that made me want to vomit right there on my front porch. The timestamp at the bottom of the video showed Sunday at 9:37 p.m. I remembered that exact time because I had received a text message from my wife at 9:35 that night. I pulled out my own phone with shaking hands and scrolled back through our messages to find it. There it was, in her own words, sent at exactly 9:35 p.m., just 2 minutes before Dave recorded this video. Having so much fun with the girls tonight. We're laughing so hard at Sarah's stories. Probably going to be home late, so don't wait up. Love you. I read that text message over and over while the video kept playing on loop because Dave's phone had automatically restarted it. She had texted me claiming she was with her female friends, having innocent fun at the exact same moment she was making out with another man in a bar booth. The casual lies were almost worse than the physical cheating itself. How easy it was for her to text me sweet words while betraying me. How comfortable she was maintaining this double life. How little thought or guilt she seemed to have about any of it. I could see other people in the background of the video walking past their booth and not even giving them a second glance because two people kissing in a bar is completely normal. Nobody knew that woman was married with 2 kids at home. Nobody knew her husband was sitting on the couch, trusting her completely while she destroyed their marriage. Nobody knew except Dave, who had accidentally witnessed it, and now me, who was watching my wife's betrayal play out in devastating high-definition video on a neighbor's phone. The video ended with my wife throwing her head back, laughing at something the man said. She looked genuinely happy. Happier than I'd seen her in months, if I was being honest with myself. That realization hit me like a physical punch to the stomach. She was happier with him than she was with me. Whatever this was, it wasn't just physical. This was something deeper, and that somehow made it so much worse. I handed Dave's phone back to him, and my mind immediately started racing backward through 3 entire years of Sunday nights. 156 Sundays total, if my quick math was correct. 156 evenings where my wife had claimed she was having innocent girls' nights with her college friends, while I stayed home alone, parenting our children and trusting her completely. Every single one of those nights was now suddenly reframed in my mind as a lie. Every text message she sent me saying, "The girls say hi," was complete fiction. Every story she told me about whose marriage was falling apart or whose job was stressful was probably made up on the drive home. Every time she came home smiling and relaxed, she was coming from him, not from her friends. I thought back to specific Sunday nights that stood out in my memory now that I knew the truth. The Sunday 2 years ago when she came home at 2 in the morning and I asked if everything was okay. She'd told me they lost track of time watching movies at Jennifer's apartment and laughing about old college memories. I'd believed her without question and gone back to sleep. Now I realized she was probably at his apartment doing God knows what while I slept peacefully thinking my wife was safe with her friends. The Sunday last year during the holidays when she'd insisted on still going to girls' night even though we had family visiting. She said the girls only had that one night free and she didn't want to miss it. I'd covered for her with my parents saying she needed time to decompress. Now I knew she'd chosen him over spending time with our family during Christmas. The casual outfit she always wore suddenly made perfect sense in a way that made me feel incredibly stupid for not seeing it before. She wasn't dressing down for comfort with female friends. She was deliberately dressing casual to avoid raising suspicion with me. If she'd left the house every Sunday in a dress and heels and full makeup, I might have wondered why she was trying so hard for girls' night. But jeans and a sweater seemed so innocent and appropriate for hanging out with friends that I never questioned it once. It was calculated deception designed to keep me from suspecting anything was wrong. I remembered all the times I'd suggested maybe having the girls over to our house sometime so I could meet them properly and catch up. She always had excuses for why that wouldn't work. Sarah lived too far away. Jennifer's schedule was too unpredictable. Michelle didn't like being around kids because she was going through fertility issues. Amanda was going through a divorce and needed their time together to be private and therapeutic. Every excuse sounded so reasonable at the time. Now I realized she was protecting her lie by making sure I never actually interacted with these supposed friends who probably had no idea she was using their names as cover for an affair. And I thought about all the Sunday mornings when she'd wake up in our bed and kiss me and make breakfast for our family, like nothing unusual had happened the night before. She'd ask about my evening with the kids and I'd tell her the cute things they said or did. She'd smile and act interested and loving like a devoted wife and mother. Then the next Sunday, she'd do it all over again. Leave at 6, lie to my face, spend hours with another man, come home and pretend everything was normal. The level of deception required to maintain this pattern for 3 years straight was absolutely staggering to me. My hands were still shaking as I stood there on my porch, trying to process how completely I'd been fooled. Dave was watching me with concern, clearly worried I might collapse or have a breakdown right there. "Do you need anything, man?" he asked quietly. "You want me to stay for a while?" I shook my head because I needed to be alone to figure out what the hell I was going to do with this information that had just destroyed everything I thought I knew about my marriage. I thanked Dave with shaking hands and a voice that didn't sound like my own, and asked him to send me that video immediately before he deleted it or changed his mind about showing me. He texted it to me right there on my porch, and I watched the notification appear on my phone, confirming I now had permanent evidence of my wife's betrayal saved in my camera roll. Dave left, looking relieved that he'd done his duty as a neighbor, but also deeply uncomfortable about being involved in the destruction of my marriage. I went back inside my house and sat on my couch in the dark, trying to decide what to do next. I could confront her immediately when she got home in a few hours, or I could investigate first and see how deep this betrayal actually went. I chose investigation because I needed to know the full truth before she had a chance to minimize it or lie her way out of it. I grabbed my laptop and started digging through evidence I had never thought to look for in 3 years of trusting my wife completely. First, I pulled up our joint credit card statements that we used for all our family expenses and personal purchases. I searched for charges on Sundays over the past few months. My stomach dropped further with each page I reviewed. There were absolutely no charges at any of the restaurants or bars where girls' nights supposedly happened. No charges at Sarah's favorite Italian place. No charges at the wine bar Jennifer supposedly loved. No charges anywhere that matched the stories my wife had been telling me for 3 years. But there were charges at Murphy's bar. Lots of them. I went back further in the statements and found the pattern going back month after month after month. Almost every single Sunday for 3 years straight, there was a charge at Murphy's bar, usually around 8 or 9 p.m. Usually between $40 and $70, which seemed like drinks and appetizers for 2 people. My wife had been using our joint credit card to pay for her affair dates while I sat at home with our kids completely oblivious. The audacity of that made me so angry I had to stand up and pace around my living room to calm down. Next, I checked her location history on our shared family phone plan that we'd set up years ago for safety purposes and tracking the kids. I'd never once looked at her location data because I trusted her and had no reason to spy on my wife. But now I logged into the account and pulled up her location tracking for Sunday nights going back as far as the records went. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely type in the passwords and navigate the website. What I found made everything so much worse than just some random affair that happened at a bar. She wasn't at any of the addresses where her supposed friends lived, not at Sarah's apartment across town, not at Jennifer's house in the suburbs, not at Michelle's condo downtown. Instead, her phone location showed the same exact address almost every single Sunday night for the past 3 years. An apartment complex about 15 minutes away from Murphy's bar. She would be at Murphy's bar until around 10 or 11 p.m. based on her location data. Then her phone would move to this apartment complex and stay there until around 11:30 p.m. or midnight. Then, it would travel from that apartment back to our house, arriving at the time she always came home claiming she'd been with the girls all night. I typed that apartment address into Google Maps and stared at the building in Street View. It was a nice modern complex with a pool and fitness center, the kind of place a single professional man might live. She'd been going to this man's apartment after the bar every single Sunday for 3 years. 156 times she left Murphy's bar and went to his home while I thought she was at a friend's house watching movies and drinking wine and having girl talk. The systematic nature of the deception was absolutely crushing me. She came home that Sunday night at her usual time of midnight, looking completely relaxed and happy, like she always did after her supposed girls' nights. She walked through our front door with a smile on her face, ready to tell me whatever lies she'd prepared about her evening with friends who didn't exist. I was sitting in our living room in the dark, with only the television providing light. I'd been sitting there for hours preparing myself for this confrontation. I'd queued up Dave's video on our massive 65-inch television that we'd bought last year for family movie nights. I'd printed out 3 years of credit card statements showing every charge at Murphy's bar. I'd mapped out her location data showing 156 trips to the same apartment complex. All the evidence was laid out on our coffee table waiting for her. "Hey honey, I'm home," she called out cheerfully as she kicked off her shoes by the door. "Sorry, I'm a bit later than usual. The girls and I were having such a good time we completely lost track of the hour. Jennifer is going through some drama with her boss, and we were giving her advice and support. You know how it is when you get talking about work problems." She walked into the living room still talking, and then stopped dead when she saw me sitting there in the dark, surrounded by papers. "What's going on?" she asked with confusion in her voice. "Why are you sitting in the dark? Are you okay? Did something happen with the kids?" "How was girls' night?" I asked in a calm voice that surprised even me, considering how much rage was burning inside my chest. She relaxed slightly, thinking this was just a normal conversation. "It was really good, actually. We went to that new tapas place Sarah's been wanting to try. The food was amazing. We had so much wine and just laughed for hours. I really needed that after the stressful week I had at work. The girls all asked about you and the kids. They want to do a couples thing sometime soon, maybe next month, if we can all coordinate schedules." I let her finish her entire story before I said anything. I wanted to hear how easily the lies flowed out of her mouth, how detailed and believable she made them sound, how comfortable she was deceiving the father of her children to his face. Then I picked up the remote control and pressed play on the video without saying a word. The television screen lit up, showing the paused image from Dave's recording. I watched my wife's face as she tried to process what she was looking at. Then the video started playing, and I saw her entire expression change in the span of 3 seconds. The color drained completely from her face as she watched herself kissing another man in a bar booth. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her eyes went wide with panic and fear. Her hands started shaking at her sides. The video played out in devastating clarity on our 65-inch screen, showing every detail of her betrayal. Her hand on his chest, his arm around her shoulders, their faces close together laughing, the passionate kiss that lasted way too long, the timestamp showing 9:37 p.m. last Sunday, the casual outfit she'd left our house wearing. "What is this?" she finally whispered when the video ended and automatically started playing again on loop. "Where did you get this? This isn't what it looks like. I can explain." Her voice was panicked and desperate. She looked at the coffee table and saw all the printed credit card statements and location data maps spread out. She saw 3 years of evidence laid out in front of her, showing a pattern of systematic deception. She saw that there was no way to lie her way out of this because I had proof of everything. "How was girls' night?" I asked again in that same calm voice. "How was the tapas place? How's Jennifer's boss treating her? Tell me more lies. I want to hear how good you are at this." She tried every single deflection and manipulation tactic she could think of in rapid succession, like she was running through a playbook of how to talk your way out of getting caught cheating. First, she claimed it was just one mistake that happened last Sunday, and she'd been feeling guilty about it all week and was planning to tell me soon. But I held up the credit card statements showing 3 years of consistent Sunday charges at Murphy's Bar, and she went silent. Then she tried claiming the video was out of context, and that man was just an old friend from college she'd run into by accident, and things got out of hand because she'd had too much wine. But I showed her the location data proving she went to his apartment after the bar every single Sunday, and her story fell apart immediately. She claimed she was drunk and didn't know what she was doing in that video. She said she'd been drugged maybe, or the drinks were stronger than she realized. But I played the video again and pointed out how clear and coherent she looked, how she was laughing and engaged, how her movements were coordinated and purposeful, how this was obviously not some woman who was impaired or unable to consent. This was a woman who knew exactly what she was doing and was enjoying every second of it. She tried to deflect by getting angry at me for spying on her and invading her privacy by checking credit cards and location data. She said I was acting like a controlling, jealous husband instead of trusting her. But I stayed calm and just kept showing her the evidence. 156 Sunday nights over 3 years. 156 charges at the same bar. 156 trips to the same apartment afterward, based on her phone's GPS data. This wasn't one drunken mistake or a moment of weakness or an accident. This was a parallel relationship she had been deliberately and systematically maintaining every single Sunday while I stayed home with our children, trusting her completely. She'd been living a double life with such ease and comfort that it terrified me to think about what else she might be capable of lying about. I asked her point blank who the man in the video was. She refused to tell me at first, claiming it would just make things worse and didn't matter anyway. But I told her I would find out one way or another, so she might as well be honest for once in our marriage. She finally admitted his name was Marcus and they'd met at a work conference 3 years ago. They'd started talking and formed a connection. It began as just meeting for drinks on Sundays, when she'd told me she was starting regular girls' nights. Over time, it escalated into a full physical and emotional affair that she'd been maintaining this entire time. She swore they never saw each other any day except Sundays. She swore it was completely compartmentalized from our family life. She swore she still loved me and the kids and wanted our marriage to work. But her swearing meant absolutely nothing to me anymore, because every word that came out of her mouth for 3 years had been a lie. How could I believe anything she said now? She'd looked me in the eyes every single Monday morning and told me about her wonderful evening with the girls. She'd texted me loving messages while sitting in another man's apartment. She'd celebrated our anniversary and our kids' birthdays and holidays while maintaining a secret relationship. The credit card statement showed that our joint checking account had funded this entire affair. I'd been unknowingly paying for her dates with another man every single week for 3 years. The money I earned at my job working hard to support our family had gone toward buying drinks and appetizers for my wife and her affair partner. That financial betrayal on top of the emotional and physical betrayal was almost too much to process. She'd stolen from our family to fund her double life and felt no guilt about it whatsoever until she got caught. I grabbed my wife's phone off the coffee table where she'd set it down when she walked in. She tried to snatch it back, but I held it away from her and told her to sit down and shut up, or I'd call the police and have her removed from our house right now in front of the kids. She sat back down on the couch, looking defeated and terrified. I unlocked her phone using the passcode I'd always known because we'd never had secrets before, or so I thought. I went straight to her contacts and started scrolling through looking for any name that seemed out of place or suspicious. Then I found it. A contact saved under the name Sarah Mitchell, which was supposedly one of her college friends from girls' night. But something about that contact felt wrong to me. I opened the text message thread with Sarah Mitchell and immediately saw that these were not messages between female friends at all. These were intimate messages between lovers, messages about missing each other during the week, messages making plans for Sunday nights, messages that were sexual and romantic in nature that made me sick to read. I scrolled back through months and months of messages, years of conversations that proved this was not some casual fling, but a deep relationship. They talked about their feelings. They made inside jokes. They said they loved each other. My wife had told another man she loved him while sleeping in my bed every night. I found the phone number attached to that contact and pressed call before my wife could stop me. She screamed at me not to do it. She lunged across the coffee table trying to grab the phone from my hands. But I moved away and put the call on speaker so she could hear everything. The phone rang 4 times, and I thought maybe he wouldn't answer a call from her on a Tuesday night when their routine was Sundays. But then a man's voice answered, sounding confused and slightly annoyed. "Hey babe, what's up? You never call during the week. Is everything okay?" "This is not your babe," I said in the calmest voice I could manage, even though I wanted to scream. "This is Sarah's husband, and I need you to tell me how long you've been sleeping with my wife on Sundays." There was complete silence on the other end of the line for at least 10 seconds. I could hear him breathing. I could hear what sounded like a television in the background. My wife was sitting on the couch with her head in her hands, crying. Then I heard the call disconnect as he hung up without saying a single word to me. I immediately called back, and this time it went straight to voicemail. So I left him a message that I knew he would hear, even if he didn't want to. "My name is David Mitchell, and you've been having an affair with my wife for 3 years. I have video evidence of you two together at Murphy's Bar. I have credit card records and location data proving 156 Sunday meetings. My lawyer will be contacting you very soon for the divorce proceedings, and you will be named as the affair partner in all legal documents. I hope those Sunday nights with my wife were worth destroying 2 families because that's what's about to happen. Don't ever contact her again, or I'll make sure everyone in your life knows exactly what kind of man you are." I hung up and looked at my wife, who was now sobbing uncontrollably on our couch. "What's his full name?" I demanded. She whispered, "Marcus Reynolds," through her tears. I immediately searched for him on social media using my phone and found his profile within seconds. He had his privacy settings loose enough that I could see his basic information. And there, in his profile description, it said, "Married to Rebecca Reynolds." This man was married. My wife had been having an affair with a married man for 3 years. Another innocent person was about to have their life destroyed by this betrayal, just like mine was being destroyed right now. I filed for divorce the very next morning before my wife even woke up from crying herself to sleep on the couch. I'd stayed up the entire night researching divorce attorneys in our area and reading reviews and comparing their specialties. I found one who specifically handled cases involving infidelity and had a reputation for being aggressive in protecting betrayed spouses. I called his office the second they opened at 8 a.m. and explained my situation. He agreed to see me immediately for an emergency consultation. I brought everything with me. Dave's video on my phone, 3 years of printed credit card statements, maps of her location data showing the pattern, screenshots of the text messages between her and Marcus. Everything that proved systematic long-term deception. The attorney looked through all my evidence with an expression that showed he'd seen this kind of thing many times before, but was still disgusted by it. He told me I had an extremely strong case for divorce based on adultery. He said the video evidence alone was damaging enough, but combined with years of financial records and location data, it painted a picture of deliberate ongoing betrayal that no judge would overlook. He asked me what I wanted in terms of custody and assets. I told him I wanted primary custody of our kids because I didn't trust my wife's judgment anymore, and I'd been the primary parent handling bedtimes and care while she was out living her double life. He said that was very reasonable given the circumstances. We filed the divorce papers that same day, citing adultery as the grounds and including Dave's video as evidence exhibit A. We also filed for a private investigator to look into Marcus Reynolds and find out more information about him that could be useful. Within 48 hours, the investigator came back with a full report. Marcus Reynolds was indeed married to Rebecca Reynolds. They'd been married for 12 years. They had no children together. He worked as a sales manager at a medical supply company. He lived in the apartment complex where my wife's phone location had been tracked to every Sunday. His wife, Rebecca, worked as a nurse at a local hospital doing 12-hour shifts that often fell on weekends. I made a decision that some people might think was vindictive, but I felt was necessary. I contacted Rebecca Reynolds and asked to meet with her in person. She agreed, though she sounded confused about why her husband's name was coming up in someone else's divorce. I met her at a coffee shop and showed her everything: the video of her husband kissing my wife, the credit card statements, the location data showing my wife going to their apartment every Sunday for 3 years, the text messages between them saying they loved each other. I watched her face go through the same progression mine had gone through when Dave showed me that video. Confusion to disbelief, to horror, to rage, to devastating sadness. Rebecca started crying in that coffee shop and told me she'd had no idea any of this was happening. She worked 12-hour Sunday shifts at the hospital and would come home exhausted around midnight to find her husband already in bed. He always told her he spent Sundays watching sports and having quiet nights at home. She never suspected he was having an affair. She never thought to check his phone or credit cards or question his stories, just like I never suspected my wife. We were both innocent people who trusted our spouses completely and got destroyed for that trust. Rebecca immediately filed for divorce from Marcus as well and provided all my evidence to her attorney. She joined my case against my wife by providing additional evidence of the affair from Marcus's side, including his phone records and emails. Together we built an absolutely ironclad case that neither my wife nor Marcus could deny or minimize. My wife tried claiming I was being controlling and had invaded her privacy by checking location data and credit cards, but her attorney told her that argument wouldn't hold up in court when faced with video evidence and 3 years of documented systematic deception. 156 consecutive Sunday lies told to her husband's face while using family money to fund an affair. No judge would have sympathy for that. I filed for divorce the very next morning, before my wife even woke up from crying herself to sleep on the couch. I'd stayed up the entire night researching divorce attorneys in our area and reading reviews and comparing their specialties. I found one who specifically handled cases involving infidelity and had a reputation for being aggressive in protecting betrayed spouses. I called his office the second they opened at 8 a.m. and explained my situation. He agreed to see me immediately for an emergency consultation. I brought everything with me: Dave's video on my phone, 3 years of printed credit card statements, maps of her location data showing the pattern, screenshots of the text messages between her and Marcus, everything that proved systematic long-term deception. The attorney looked through all my evidence with an expression that showed he'd seen this kind of thing many times before, but was still disgusted by it. He told me I had an extremely strong case for divorce based on adultery. He said the video evidence alone was damaging enough, but combined with years of financial records and location data, it painted a picture of deliberate, ongoing betrayal that no judge would overlook. He asked me what I wanted in terms of custody and assets. I told him I wanted primary custody of our kids because I didn't trust my wife's judgment anymore, and I'd been the primary parent handling bedtimes and care while she was out living her double life. He said that was very reasonable given the circumstances. We filed the divorce papers that same day, citing adultery as the grounds and including Dave's video as evidence exhibit A. We also filed for a private investigator to look into Marcus Reynolds and find out more information about him that could be useful. Within 48 hours, the investigator came back with a full report. Marcus Reynolds was indeed married to Rebecca Reynolds. They'd been married for 12 years. They had no children together. He worked as a sales manager at a medical supply company. He lived in the apartment complex where my wife's phone location had been tracked to every Sunday. His wife Rebecca worked as a nurse at a local hospital doing 12-hour shifts that often fell on weekends. I made a decision that some people might think was vindictive, but I felt was necessary. I contacted Rebecca Reynolds and asked to meet with her in person. She agreed, though she sounded confused about why her husband's name was coming up in someone else's divorce. I met her at a coffee shop and showed her everything: the video of her husband kissing my wife, the credit card statements, the location data showing my wife going to their apartment every Sunday for 3 years, the text messages between them saying they loved each other. I watched her face go through the same progression mine had gone through when Dave showed me that video. Confusion to disbelief, to horror, to rage, to devastating sadness. Rebecca started crying in that coffee shop and told me she'd had no idea any of this was happening. She worked 12-hour Sunday shifts at the hospital and would come home exhausted around midnight to find her husband already in bed. He always told her he spent Sundays watching sports and having quiet nights at home. She never suspected he was having an affair. She never thought to check his phone or credit cards or question his stories, just like I never suspected my wife. We were both innocent people who trusted our spouses completely and got destroyed for that trust. Rebecca immediately filed for divorce from Marcus as well and provided all my evidence to her attorney. She joined my case against my wife by providing additional evidence of the affair from Marcus's side, including his phone records and emails. Together we built an absolutely ironclad case that neither my wife nor Marcus could deny or minimize. My wife tried claiming I was being controlling and had invaded her privacy by checking location data and credit cards. But her attorney told her that argument wouldn't hold up in court when faced with video evidence and 3 years of documented systematic deception. 156 consecutive Sunday lies told to her husband's face while using family money to fund an affair. No judge would have sympathy for that.